Some betrayals don't come from strangers. They come from the people you raised with your own hands. People who once cried in the fold of your arms, and now look at you with eyes that mirror entitlement, not gratitude. This is not a story of a petty fight. It is a story of a mother who spent her life giving love, money, comfort, safety, only to be replaced by someone who didn't earn a single drop of that sacrifice. Not a sister, not a friend, but the children's grandmother. The children said she was more loving, more fun, more generous. So they made the cruelest decision. They took the ticket meant for the woman who raised them and handed it to someone who never stayed awake for them at 2 a.m. They believed luxury, gifts, and attention meant love. They believed a grandmother's performance could outweigh a mother's years of sacrifice. They believed they could humiliate her, and she would simply absorb the pain like she always had. But they forgot one thing. When a mother goes silent, she isn't weak. She is transforming. She is calculating. And she is preparing consequences that echo louder than tears. Because mothers don't destroy their children, but they will make sure they understand the weight of disrespect. This is the story of how a single ticket changed lives, shattered illusions, and taught everyone involved that love is not something you steal. It is something you earn. Stay until the end, because this time, the mother didn't cry. She didn't beg. She didn't fight. She let life teach the lesson. And it was brutal. They say children don't know the weight of a mother's heart until life presses it against their own chest. But the day they took her ticket and handed it to their grandmother, she understood something far darker. They didn't just misunderstand her, they underestimated her. She remembered waking up at dawn, preparing everything for the trip she had been planning for months. Packing lunches, confirming schedules, setting reminders, making sure everyone had comfort, snacks, and clean clothes. She didn't complain. She never did. Years of motherhood had trained her to swallow fatigue like medicine, to breathe through disappointment, to smile past exhaustion. Her children never saw the invisible strings she tied to hold their lives together. They only saw what she didn't give: endless money, flashy toys, impulsive gifts, freedom without consequences, things that their grandmother, with her careless pensions and indulgent attitude, offered freely. She stood in the doorway that day, confused, holding her bag, waiting for them to rush out like they always did, whining about the drive, asking for snacks, fighting over the back seat. But the house was quiet. The tickets she had printed the night before weren't on the counter. Her heart sank when she checked her purse. Empty. She walked outside slowly, like someone approaching a battlefield unarmed, and there they were. Her children, giggling in the car, dressed for the trip, phones out, faces shining with excitement. And beside them, radiant like a queen being escorted to a throne, sat their grandmother, her smile smug and satisfied. The tickets folded neatly in her lap. The mother didn't shout. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. Her silence was sharper than any blade. In that moment, a realization carved itself into her bones. These were the children she raised, not the children she deserved. They didn't understand her sacrifices, because she never made them watch her bleed. She stepped forward, calmly, and asked where her ticket was. Her oldest child looked at her dead in the eyes and said the words that would echo forever. "Grandma loves us more. You're always busy or strict. You don't know how to have fun. So we gave her your ticket." For a moment the world froze. Time became a cruel witness. This wasn't teenage rebellion or childish tantrum. This was entitlement. This was disrespect born from comfort. It wasn't grandma they loved. It was what she provided: the instant gratification, the absence of discipline, the temporary thrills masquerading as affection. Their grandmother didn't apologize. She didn't pretend. She simply lifted her chin as if claiming victory in a war she believed she had won. That was the moment the mother felt her heart turn from H to iron. She didn't beg. She didn't argue. She stepped back into the house, closed the door, and watched from the window as they drove away without her. Wind chimes rattled outside. The laughter of her children disappeared down the street. She stood alone in the quiet kitchen, surrounded by the evidence of her care: snacks prepared, itinerary arranged, medication packed, phones charged, everything ready. Yet none of it enough to earn respect. Not yet. They thought her silence meant weakness. They were wrong. In that moment, something inside her woke up, something ancient, something fierce. And she whispered to herself, they will learn. Grandmothers are supposed to be a soft shelter, a safe harbor, a memory of warmth, but some use love like a currency. The grandmother in this story was not gentle affection. She was addiction. She didn't hug the children to comfort them. She hugged them to pull them away from the woman who birthed them. The moment she received that stolen ticket, her smile twisted with satisfaction. She didn't ask why they had it. She didn't question their decision. She didn't say, "Give this back to your mother." She accepted it like a prize she had been waiting for. Her pride bloomed like a poison flower. She believed loyalty is bought. She believed kids will love the one who spoils them with gifts, sweets, trips. Yes, after. Yes. For years she weaponized softness. She gave them expensive toys and sugary treats so that they looked at their mother and saw only rules, chores, and discipline. She told them stories of how she raised their father perfectly, how she knows better than their mother, how she understands children more than anyone. And when the kids listened, she fed them more affection, more rewards, more attention. Not because she loved them, but because she wanted to be the favorite. She wanted to be worshipped. When the children handed her that ticket behind their mother's back, she felt victorious. Finally, proof that she had cut the mother out of her own family. Proof that she was the one they cherished. She took the ticket with a smirk and told the children not to tell their mother. Malicious secrecy disguised as bonding. In her mind, she justified it. She's strict, she's boring. She doesn't spoil them. I'm saving them from her harshness. She never once considered the truth. She was sabotaging a woman who had sacrificed her sleep, her body, her dreams to raise the very children who betrayed her. She boarded that plane not as a grandmother, but as a conqueror. She praised the kids for choosing her. She whispered, "See how happy you are with me," as if love was an equation of gifts and attention. When they laughed, she took mental notes. Every smile was another knife in the mother's heart. She treated every moment as proof that motherhood is not earned through labor and sacrifice, but stolen through manipulation and bribery. She posted pictures. She bragged to family. She made sure word got around, the kids prefer grandma. She would sit at family gatherings with her head high, telling stories of how the children chose her because she understands them. To her, motherhood was a competition, and she just won the final round. She didn't realize she was creating a future where those children would grow into entitled adults who use people the way she used them. She didn't realize she was raising them to treat love like a vending machine. The mother watched this unfold silently, knowing every second was turning her children into strangers. The grandmother thought she had destroyed the mother. What she didn't know was that she had ignited her, and there is nothing more terrifying than a mother who has been dismissed by her own blood. The mother didn't scream. She didn't argue. She didn't yank tickets back or beg for apologies. Her rage was cold, sharp, and slow burning. She sat in her room, breathing through the betrayal, letting the pain solidify into clarity. She began to see the truth. She had loved her children with devotion, but she had never taught them consequences. They confused comfort with care. They confused indulgence with love. They mistook structure for cruelty and boundaries for lack of affection. And so, she decided to rewrite the lesson. She stopped bending. She stopped rescuing. She stopped making life easy just because they were our kids. The next week, when they came back expecting validation and forgiveness, she was not the same woman. She greeted them with silence and responsibility. She removed privileges they took for granted: screen time, money, rides, meals prepared on command. Everything in their life they assumed was automatic suddenly became conditional. You want my time. Earn it. You want my respect. Show it. You want my love. Understand it. They cried. They threw tantrums. They ran to Grandma, who told them their mother was being dramatic. But when their grades slipped, when their chores piled up, when the house didn't magically run itself, they realized something painful. Life is not built by the one who spoils you. It is built by the one who sacrifices for you. The grandmother's manipulation eventually collapsed. When the kids visited her, she welcomed them. But she didn't cook their meals, she didn't wash their clothes, she didn't discipline them. She laughed at their demands. Ask your mother, she said, because that responsibility was never hers and never would be. The children slowly saw her differently, not as a hero, but as entertainment. Temporary comfort, a warm couch with no direction, and when they needed guidance, real guidance, they had to crawl back to the woman they humiliated. That was the mother's revenge. Not violence, not public exposure, not dramatic scenes. She didn't destroy the grandmother. She allowed time to do it. She let the children experience the emptiness behind the gifts. She let the grandmother's love show its true nature: shallow, transactional, self-serving. The kids eventually understood that the mother's boring rules were actually the structure holding their world together. They saw their grandmother's cruelty hiding behind smiles. And when they finally cried an apology, the mother didn't gloat. She didn't say, "I told you so." She simply looked at them and said, "Love that costs nothing is cheap. Love that demands respect is real." They thought it was harmless. A childish prank. A grandmother's spoiled smile. A ticket taken from their own mother and handed to someone who has never carried their pain, never stayed awake on school nights, never paid a bill or cleaned up the mess they made. My children believed Grandma's laughter was love because it came without responsibility. They believed her candy and compliments were proof of affection. They believed the absence of discipline meant softness, freedom, superiority. They did not know that real love is often silent, grinding, exhausting. Love that wakes you at dawn and puts you to bed after midnight. So when they snuck into my purse, stole my ticket, and proudly handed it to their grandmother, they thought they had won something. They thought they had chosen the better heart. But life has a strange way of teaching those who spit on the hands that feed them. It was an amusement park trip. A special event. Something I had planned to celebrate our year. The grandmother accepted the stolen ticket with pride in her eyes and venom in her smile. She made no attempt to return it. She saw this moment as proof that she had finally conquered my bond with my children. She reveled in their shallow loyalty. She stood beside them like a crowned queen as they ridiculed me, and she didn't stop them. In fact, she fed them the fuel. Your mother is too strict. Your mother doesn't know how to have fun. Your mother is always tired. Each word sharpened their disrespect like knives. I said nothing. I just watched. I watched the three of them board the bus, laughing, satisfied, proud of themselves. And then the universe turned. The park faced an accident, mechanical failure on one of the rides, chaos ripping through a crowd of people, screams echoing through a sunny sky. News notifications flooded phones. Videos, photos, people shouting names searching for children. Emergency vehicles screeching across asphalt. The world broke in seconds. My children, who had mocked me for being anxious and overprotective, suddenly remembered the woman they had thrown away. My daughter dialed me first. Her voice trembled like a leaf trapped in wind. "Mom, there's something wrong. They're evacuating people. I don't know where Grandma is." For the first time in years, her voice didn't sound entitled. It sounded scared. It sounded human. I didn't rush. I didn't scream. I didn't panic. I listened. I let her words sink into the silence. The same silence I lived with when they said I wasn't enough for them. Their grandmother, who pranced around like royalty, was lost in the chaos, separated from them. They suddenly realized the truth. She gave them snacks, not security. She gave them gossip, not guidance. She fed their rebellion, not their souls. In the nightmarish swirl of sirens and crying strangers, They felt something they never expected: regret. The kind that burns. The kind that sits in the chest like a stone. And while rescue teams moved through crowds, and the bus was called to return, and mothers screamed names that never came back, they wished for my voice. They wished for my arms. They wished for the woman they had insulted. When the bus finally returned, my children didn't run into Grandma's arms. They ran to mine. She did not scream. She did not punish them with impulsive anger. She did not cry in her room or sit at the kitchen table waiting for an apology that would never come. True power does not rush. It waits, learns, and strikes with clarity. When the children returned from the destination, their faces pale with fear and confusion after the crisis, she offered no comforting arms. She gave them silence, and silence is the most terrifying mirror. They begged for her care, not because they suddenly loved her, but because they finally understood what it meant to exist without her protection. She began by withdrawing the most dangerous currency. She had given them her endless availability. No more help with school projects, no more emergency money, no more dropping everything to fix their mistakes. When they asked, she replied with the same casual dismissal they once gave her. "Ask your grandmother." They were shocked. They thought love was automatic, that motherhood was a job without conditions, that her loyalty was a fountain with no bottom. But now the fountain was dry. She visited lawyers quietly. She rearranged bank accounts, changed beneficiaries, and redirected inheritance. She sold family assets that had been taken for granted, including the vacation home where Grandma often played queen in front of the children. The kids noticed little things first. The refrigerator no longer magically refilled. Their laundry sat untouched, and the family van she used to drive them in was replaced with a smaller, newer car. One that did not have room for freeloaders. Respect was no longer optional. She started hosting friends, coworkers, community members, and peers who admired her discipline and achievements. Suddenly her children were surrounded by adults who valued her, people who openly spoke of her strength and leadership. That admiration burned them like acid. For the first time in their lives, they saw their mother as a human being with influence, not just a vending machine for comfort. And in her silence, she carved an iron boundary. Love is not a prize given to the loudest demand. It is a reward earned through gratitude and loyalty. The consequences arrived slowly at first, then like a tidal wave. The grandmother, who once basked in the attention of the children, began to crumble under the new dynamic. When the children needed help, money for school events, emotional support, emergency rides, she was nowhere to be found. She had always been the fun woman, the one who brought candy, toys, vacations, and escape. She was never the woman who put food on the table during recessions or worked double shifts when the power bill was overdue. The children, once dazzled by her generosity, realized that her love had a price: admiration, praise, obedience. The moment they stopped feeding her ego, she stopped feeding them anything at all. Their guilt spiraled into panic. They approached their mother with apologies carved from desperation, not love. But she had evolved past their childlike manipulations. Then came the public reckoning. A family gathering. Cousins, uncles, neighbors saw the grandmother boasting about how the children adored her more than their own mother, how they would always choose her over that tired woman. The protagonist did not interrupt. She simply shared screenshots of bank transfers, receipts, and text messages revealing how Grandma had manipulated the kids for years, feeding them lies to weaken their bond with their mother, hoping to replace her. The room fell into stunned silence. People stared at the grandmother like a ticking bomb had finally detonated. Her legacy collapsed. No one loved her for her kindness, only for the treats she distributed like bribes. Even her friends stepped back. For the children, the collapse was devastating. Their friends heard the story. Teachers heard the story. Church members and sports coaches heard the story. Everywhere they went, the phrase echoed. "You betrayed your own mother." Shame became their shadow. They finally understood the truth: their mother's love was not transactional. It was the foundation of their entire existence. And they had tried to trade it for candy and vacations. She did not gloat. She did not rub their defeat into their wounds. She simply continued building her life, stronger, brighter, centered on goals and people who respected her. She invited the children into that world only when they showed real maturity, real gratitude, real accountability. That was her final message, carved not in rage but in steel. Motherhood is not a competition. Love is not a scoreboard. And the woman who raised you is the last person you should ever choose to betray. When the dust finally settled, the grandmother sat in her living room with the ticket still framed in her mind as some kind of trophy. Proof that she had won the hearts of the children, proof of her superiority, proof that she had replaced their mother. But life does not reward manipulation. Life does not crown those who take what isn't theirs. And life has a cruel way of teaching lessons through the very things people think they control. The accident changed everything. The children had dreamed of a perfect trip with their beloved grandmother, only to be met with chaos, fear, and uncertainty. No laughter. No celebration. No victory. They found themselves stranded in a place that demanded responsibility, maturity, and emotional strength. And the grandmother, so proud, so arrogant, found herself exposed. Not the fun hero, not the favorite, only a shaking, panicked woman unable to lead, unable to comfort, unable to protect. The children saw it all, the mask slipping, the lies unraveling, the truth choking her. Meanwhile, the mother was at home, quiet as a full moon over a still lake. She didn't shout. She didn't say, "I told you so." She didn't run to rescue them. She let real consequences do the talking. She let disrespect meet its own reflection. For the first time in their young lives, the children had to face the bitter taste of betrayal. They remembered the moment they handed over their mother's ticket and laughed. They remembered how light they felt, how justified they believed themselves to be. But now, each breath carried doubt and regret. They realized respect is not given to the one who entertains, but to the one who sacrifices. When they finally came home, the grandmother tried to speak first. She attacked, she blamed, she dramatized. She pointed fingers at the airline, the staff, the weather, the world, anyone but herself. But the children didn't defend her. They stood silently, eyes lowered, their confidence shattered. They saw their mother sitting at the table calm, unbothered, centered in her own power. Not because she won, not because she wanted revenge, but because she finally understood one thing: love without boundaries becomes a weapon used against you. She looked at her children, not with fury, but with a clarity that cut deeper than any scream. "I will always love you," she said, voice steady, "but I will not beg for your respect. I am your mother, not your entertainer. I don't owe you comfort. You owe this family responsibility. You owe each other loyalty. And if you choose people who mock the hands that raised you, I won't stop you. I will simply step aside." Those words hit harder than any punishment. The grandmother watched, stunned. Her victory dissolved into dust. The children, shaken and humbled, pleaded, not because they feared being scolded, but because they finally understood what they had almost lost. The mother didn't chase. She let them learn. And in that silence, they grew. Weeks passed, and something changed. The children didn't idolize Grandma anymore. They didn't treat her like a goddess. They treated her like what she was: a flawed adult who made a reckless decision. They came to the mother with new eyes, with gratitude, with maturity, and most importantly, with respect. The grandmother became an occasional visitor. The ticket, once the symbol of stolen love, became the symbol of the day her children grew up. Revenge didn't come through anger, punishment, or destruction. It came through truth, consequence, and dignity. That is how real power is reclaimed. Sibras messages included in conclusion. Tonin, if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that quiet strength is louder than loud pride, then show your support. Hit the like button, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. Here, we share stories that reveal the power of resilience, self-respect, and the courage to walk away from those who take us for granted. Your voice matters. Your experiences matter. Your story might be the one that inspires someone else. Stay strong, stay dignified, and never forget. You are more powerful than they think.